So I'm gonna get started, and this is gonna be a super interactive class today. I've got my chat window up, and just feel free to ask questions. If I'm in the middle of talking, it might take me a minute to check the questions. But my name's Via Williams, and I'm the Director of Growth for the Ben Kinney Companies, which means that I help lead our 8 brokerages here in Western Washington. But what's important for you to know is that prior to this, I've been a real estate agent. I still am for 17 years. I'm born and raised here in the Seattle area, and I got my start in 2002. So it was right after 9/11 for any of you guys who were around then. And I started at another brokerage than the one I'm at now. I happen to be at Keller Williams now. And when I first got my start, just like any of you guys, I kind of took whatever business I could get. Nothing wrong with that. That's what I want everybody to do. And at one point, probably 4 years in, I started going, wow, like if I sell houses for a higher price point, A, they don't smell funny and look bad. B, I really enjoy doing open houses and like being in them. And C, I like my commission checks a lot more. And so I started realizing that I really wanted to get into luxury, and a lot of you guys have thought that before. So probably 4 years into the business, so probably about 2005 or 6, might have been 3 years in the business, I started realizing that. And I realized that it was really hard to find people to teach it. Have you guys noticed that before? It's really hard to find people teaching classes how to get into luxury. Well, you know, I have a theory about that. And now we go to my slide deck. Here's my theory on why it's so hard to get people. Oh, maybe I'll go to my slide deck. Oh, I love tech. I've had a fun tech day today too. Here we go. So here's my theory on that. My theory is that really highly successful luxury agents are so talented. These guys are, I'm in awe of them. The top luxury agents in the nation are so talented that I think they've reached this point that we call unconscious competence. And that's a compliment. That's not it sounds kind of like a slam, and that's not a slam at all. But when you're going through the stages of mastery, you start off with unconscious competence, which means I don't know what I don't know. So for some of you here today, you don't even know what you don't know about luxury. I bet you most of you are in the second part of that, which is conscious competence. Conscious competence is, I actually know what I don't know. I now know that I don't know enough about this, right? The third square is conscious competence, and that's that magic sweet spot where we know what we know. We've just started learning something, and so we still have to think about it when we're doing it, and so we're consciously aware of what we're doing. And then the fourth level of mastery is unconscious competence. When someone says to you, Leica, how do you flip a house? And you go, I don't know, I just do it. Like it's just so second nature, right? We just do it. I believe that the truly talented top luxury agents in the nation are so talented, they don't even know what they know anymore. So I started building up a really good luxury portfolio, and a couple things I want to share about that before we move on. One of them is I purposely chose to not just do luxury. I never wanted to be 100% luxury agent. I always wanted that to be my goal was always about a third of my business, right? There have been some times where it's up to 50% of my business, and there's also been times where it's been a little lower. So one of the decisions you can make is, do you want to be 100% luxury agent, or do you want to just have a portion of your business luxury, right? So once I got to a point where I was doing pretty well in luxury, I realized that it was the number one question people were asking me, because I doubled my price point really, really quickly. I doubled my price point in about 2 years, very fast. And what happened is I was kind of unconsciously competent. I was, nailing real estate. It was great. And then I made a brokerage change. And in 2011, I came to Keller Williams. And when I got here, I just decided that it was kind of a great time to reinvent myself. Moving, it's a really wonderful opportunity. I could kind of create this whole new thing, right? So when I came to Keller Williams, I signed up and I basically announced to anyone that would listen that I was a luxury agent. And you know, what you have to know is I kind of wasn't. It wasn't a lie. It was just wishful thinking. I maybe sold maybe 2, maybe 3 luxury homes a year, right? And so what was happening is I was qualifying, like I qualified to be in the Keller Williams luxury group, for instance, right? And I was just enough to get in the door, but you guys, I wasn't really a luxury agent, not really, not how I would define it. So I started labeling myself that. The day I joined Keller Williams, I signed up for the luxury division right then and there that day, because I just felt like, you know, how can I call myself a luxury agent if I'm not in the luxury division of my own company, right? So I did that, and I decided to go back to conscious competence at a certain point so that I could teach it. Because what happened is I got super purposeful about doubling my price point. Back then, my price point was $350, and I brought it up to $700 in about 2 years. So I don't know why, but I was very aware of the path I was on, and I was super purposeful, and I took notes and I paid attention, and I would literally take notes after appointments. I would take notes after phone calls, and it was those kind of couple years of notes and being really aware that caused me to create this class, because I realized it was the number one question I was getting asked. And I also knew that I wanted to grow a team and start a team, and that I would have to train them, you know, to do this, that I wanted to train them to do this. What drives me, what gets me up in the morning is you guys, is, you know, being part of training someone to highly succeed in real estate. And since it was the number one question I was getting, I knew that I would get a lot of joy and fulfillment being the person to train people to be good at luxury. So that's really what happened and where this class came from. I do not teach this class a lot. I'm teaching it today, and I won't teach it the rest of the year. Luckily, it's being recorded, which is great. You know, I think that I'm hesitant a little bit because some of you shouldn't maybe do luxury. I think that we're going to start off this class talking about maybe you should really, you know, look at upping your price point. That's always a good idea, but not doing luxury. So that's where we're going to start. So the 3 things that we're going to cover today are the ABCs to double your price point. A, and this is really important, analyze. You may not need to or want to go into luxury. We're going to go there in a minute, right? But I want you guys to analyze your market. I'm going to give you some homework. And you're going to get really familiar with the price bands and with what's selling in your own market. And you're going to make some decisions. I always think you want to up your price point, right? I also think you have to be careful what you wish for. And I get how sexy luxury is. I do. And I don't want to dissuade any of you, because I sold Kevin Durant's house. I liked that. I mean, it was great being on the front page of the Seattle Times real estate section. I liked it. It was cool. But, you know, I don't know that I ever had a driving desire, you guys, to have 100% of my business like that. I just, for a variety of reasons, which we can talk about. Number 2 is really the meat of it, is how to become a luxury agent. I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did. And, you know, as you guys walk through this journey, you know, over the next year or 2, I'd love you to kind of share with me, you know, what you did that's different, that's the same. You know, I'd love to kind of have you stay in touch with me and see if this made any impact with you and if you resonate with any of this once you start on this journey. Number 3 is really how I carried out and executed and leveraged. And what I mean by leverage in this case is, you know, it's really about once you get that first luxury listing, using that as a launching point to get more. And we'll talk about that when we get there. So the ABCs of luxury. Feel free, like I said, to jump in on chat. I'll do my best to answer questions in real time if I can, okay? So if I go through something too fast and you don't understand, then let me know. And I'll stick around afterwards too. So this is where I want to start. I wanted to start with the actual definition of luxury, okay, the textbook definition. Luxury is the top 10% of your particular real estate market. So typically that's going to be an MLS area, especially for those of you in Washington. For those of you in Washington, a really good example is West Bellevue, where Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates live, area 520. The top 10% there is probably going to look different than the top 10% of Thurston County, right? Probably going to be a different price band, right? So you don't even hit luxury till about 3 million in West Bellevue, and you can, I'm not picking on Thurston County, but to pick a county, when you go to Thurston County, there would maybe be, on one hand, there wouldn't be many properties over 3 million, if even that, right? So it's the top 10% of your market, typically an MLS area. So, any one real estate office, you guys, can cover 5 to 10 submarkets. Right? Like my home office has always been in Kirkland. And, in Kirkland, I've sold luxury listings in Fall City and Snohomish and Bellevue and Kirkland and Redmond and Sammamish and Issaquah in Seattle, right? So the top 10% of your given market, however you define that submarket, is luxury, not 20%. Rachel, it's 10%, top 10%. That's the textbook definition of it, right? What I want to kind of get you guys to think about, and when I thought about it, so I came to Keller Williams in 2011, and I really sat down and started thinking about what I wanted my business to look like, and really what I wanted my life to look like. I know that a lot of you guys lived through the downturn. It was horrible. 2008 through kind of 2010, 11. It was a really tough time for a lot of us. And, there was a lot of reassessment going on back then, right? And so, me kind of coming to Keller Williams and reinventing myself, I think that was all part of that, right? I think that was kind of where my head was at. So I remember pulling up the MLS one day, one afternoon in my office, and kind of thinking, they have all these really cool stats on here, and I've never really spent the time on them. So I pulled up the MLS, and for those of you in the NW MLS in Washington, it's still there because I did it last night. You go on to the stats section, and you go to Matrix Stats, and they have a report in there, and they've had this report in there for 10 years, and it's prices in price, I don't know what they call, I call them price bands. I can't remember what they call it. What do they call it? You'll see it. It's different price ranges is what they call it, right? And it gives you how many sold properties are selling in each price range. So for those of you in other areas of the country, I guarantee you, somewhere in your MLS, somewhere in Trend Graphics, somewhere in any of the market research that you use, it's going to have a segment where it's going to give you how many closings are happening in the different, I call them price bands, in the different price ranges, right? So I'm gonna switch out of here, and we're gonna spend a couple minutes on this because it's super important, and it's really how I made my decisions that kind of changed the course of my business. So here, what I did is, I'm in Bellingham today, so Whatcom County is right in front of me. Hi, my Bellingham people. I'm really excited. I'm gonna be physically distanced, and I'm gonna go enjoy a drink on the bay tonight. I'm really looking forward to getting out. Oh my gosh, I'm getting out. Can you believe it? So I pulled a bunch of counties, but let's look at Whatcom counties really quick. You can see that this shows, I did closings, how many sold closings, right? And this is how many closings are happening per price band, right? So you can see this is 350, and this is 400, and this is 450. This is a super clear indication of what the median price is. I happen to know, because we have an incredible office here in Bellingham, Washington, that I'm on the leadership team for. And I happen to know that the median price in Bellingham lately has been kind of in that 390 range, right? Here you go. You can see it right here. That's your median, right? So it's going to go down below and down after because of nature of the median, right? You can also see there's a little spike up on the $1 million mark, isn't there? Do you guys know a fun fact? Every single county in Washington that I pulled, I'm just going to give you a quick view, spikes up on the $1 million mark. Isn't that fascinating? I actually don't know the reason why. So don't get excited. I can't tell you the reason why. But look at all of these countries. This is Thurston. This is Skagit. See these little jump ups right in $1 million? Okay, let's keep going. This is Thurston again. Here we go. This is Pierce. Look at that little jump up at $1 million. Isn't it? Okay, now we go to King. I am going to use King County right now because that's my home county, and this is literally the data I use. And since I'm kind of walking you through my story, I hope you indulge me. It's just a little easier for me to talk about my own county. So what do you guys notice about this chart? Yes, I know you notice a big red box that I drew, but what else do you notice about this chart? One of the things that you'll see, our median in King County is actually, it's higher than this, actually higher than that, which is kind of weird. But what's wild is how many properties do we have in $1 million, right? How many properties do we have at $1 million? It's a wild amount. What I knew, this is what I knew, and I'm just going to walk you through what I did, okay? I'm not a market researcher, I'm not a data analyst, but I want to just kind of walk you through. So I was in my office one afternoon, and I thought to myself, I'm really interested in properties over $500,000. I really enjoy a $15,000 or more commission. I'm just admitting it right now, like, judge me, but really enjoy a $15,000 commission. And, I also, didn't have a high need. It was never an ego-driven decision for me. So, and by the way, I don't want to knock it if it is. I honor it. If it helps your ego and your confidence to be a luxury agent, you guys, I actually celebrate that with you. I have no problem with it. For me, it was just a business decision. I remember a phrase someone told me, and it was, if you sell to the masses, you'll eat with the classes. If you sell to the classes, you'll eat with the masses, meaning Walmart, right? Costco. They are, billionaires, like the Senegals and the Walmart, the Walton family, they're billionaires, right? Because they sell to the everyday people. But like Neiman Marcus is about to declare bankruptcy. So that's what that expression means. So I always had that lurking in my mind. I used to sell radio advertising. You know who told me that expression was a furniture retailer. He owned a chain of furniture stores in the area that I sold radio in, and it always stuck with me. If you ever want to get really good at sales, you guys, go sell radio advertising. You have to cold call. You have to go just walk into businesses. You learn a lot about different businesses. Let's go back. So that was always kind of resonating in my head. And what I knew is that I really, really wanted to have it over 500. And I knew that I didn't have a high need to have to sell these $5 or $10 million properties. I wasn't really excited about having 2 or 3 year listings. I really wasn't excited about outlaying tens of thousands of dollars in marketing and kind of dealing with all the people that I probably have to deal with. And it just wasn't interesting to me. So what I did back then, and I've revised this because I just pulled this last night, but what I did back then is I stared at this chart, almost the exact chart we're looking at, and I drew a circle from 5 to 1.5. And I thought to myself, that's what I want to be. I want to be the $5 to $1.5 million specialist. And I want my average price to be $1 million. And I want you to know my average price, my median price for me via group, since then I formed a team. We got to about 70 million in volume and about 1.8 million in gross commission income. We peaked out at that in 2017 and 2018. And then I came to work here for Ben Kinney, being the director of gross. So my team has kind of taken a little bit of a back burner. But I knew that was the target, and I knew that 5 to 1.5 million was where I wanted to be. Did that mean that I did not take listings up to about $3 million? The answer is a resounding no. I gladly took listings up to $3 million. And by the way, $3 million is about where I capped out, guys. I haven't sold a house over $3 million. So a lot of you on this call have sold, higher price homes than me. It was just never anything I went for. I actually turned down a waterfront listing about a month ago for $7 million. I just didn't want it. I thought it would sit on the market forever. I thought it was overpriced. Thought it was an unreasonable seller, and just walked away from it. So, I just I have a high need to have things that sell. I like a little bit more of a transactional clip. So all of these factored into my decision. And that's what you really have to do. You have to look at the numbers and look at the data. You need to look at what's selling, because I did notice that after 1.5, there's a drop. So what I did last night is I've kind of revised this because of pricing has accelerated in the last 10 years. About 700 to just under 2 million is kind of where my target is now. I call it's 750 to 1.75. Look at the drop off here. See that drop off? I don't need to battle for that 2 million enough. I just don't feel like I need it. So this is my focus now, but it was 5 to 1.5. And we were at a point, guys, where I would tell you, and you could have asked anyone on my team, and we would say our target market is any buyer or seller looking for a $5 to $1.5 million property who has to be in theory either a move down or a move up buyer and seller. They represented 2 transactions and their total real estate equaled 1 to 3 million. That was our avatar. That was who we completely focused on. 5 to 1.5, move up or move down, buyer or seller, who represented 2 transactions, each totaling approximately $1 to $3 million. We said that in our sleep. So what that enables you to do is anytime you're doing marketing, anytime you're doing social media, anytime you're at an open house, you ever have to do triage at an open house? You're like, there's 3 people, I don't know who to talk to. We were so clear on our avatar, our look, our design. When I went to my graphic designer to do the VIA Group logo, it was move up or move down, buyer or seller, 5 to 1.5 million. He was either going to sell them, we went through the whole thing. Everything we did now was targeting that price band. Did we sell property under that and over that? You bet. But were we purposeful and did we target that particular buyer group and seller group? Yes. Are you tracking with me on that? You see the difference? So who you are, how you image yourself, what you decide you really want to be, what price band you decide to go for, that's what you design your look for, your scripts, your training if you have a team. That's how you do that. It does not mean you say no to business outside of that, right? It's like being a neighborhood specialist. Yeah, you can be a neighborhood specialist, but that's only going to be a certain percentage of your total business, right? So when you guys came to this class, and you guys were talking about, you're thinking to yourself, I want to be a luxury agent. I want you to be a luxury agent. It's fun. I really like it. I really loved it. I still do. I like the people. I like learning from really successful business people. I love the houses. I love everything about it. But, really think about, why, what your reasons are. Really look at the numbers and think about, what is selling. I want the top 10% of kind of what's selling. Think about, who you're going to be in competition with in your neighborhood. Are there really entrenched agents who are killing it and the really, really high end? Maybe you just want to scoot one down below them, right? Another thing I did in the analysis part is I actually looked at Keller Williams and I looked at how Keller Williams came into a market. And what I learned about Keller Williams is that they would circle a market. So if you take a metropolitan area, say like Seattle, and what Keller Williams did was they would come in on the outer suburbs. And then their last offices tended to be like downtown Seattle, right? Or, right in the center of it. That's just kind of how they did. They kind of came in. So I thought, well, okay, that's interesting because it's probably going to be easier for me to get a $2 million listing in like Falls City or Snohomish than it is Medina, right? And I was right. And when I first started focusing on this, I was the queen of like the Octagon House in North Bend. Like, you know what I mean? I was the one that got all the listings. For those of you not in Seattle, I was the one that got all the listings in the total outerlying areas that like no one else really, wanted to go for. And I worked really hard on them. And I was really realistic with my sellers. I managed expectations well, and I kept selling them. And so my stats kept going up. And so I could just move in closer and closer until I was, doing waterfront in Bellevue, right? And so, you can use this analysis, not just for price band, you can also use it to be smart as far as, what areas you're looking in and what that looks like, right? I just did not fear driving for this. It was I don't know how to explain. I was so focused on it, nothing was going to stop me. So I'm going to pull back on the slide deck, but while I'm doing that, do you guys have any questions so far on the analysis part of it? Let me pull this up. Any questions so far on this? Someone asked if I pull this up. I can send all of these to you guys. I'm happy to. If you're in Washington, I can send them to the team leaders, and they can get them to you. But you can also look them up on Matrix. It's under stats, and then it's under Matrix stats. It's not an InfoSpark stats. So either way. Yeah, so that was mine. I want you guys to look at yours. These are some different areas here in Washington. So the homework I want you to do, and I want you guys to write this down before we go any farther, is I want you to do homework, and I want you to make a decision. I want you to make a decision about what do you really want to target, guys? Like what do you really want to target? Is it just that you want to up your price point, or do you truly want to be a luxury agent? If you really just have this burning desire to be a luxury agent, and that's, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I encourage you to do it. I want you to do that. I just want you to be aware of how many units you're competing for. Well, let me actually, I can't pull in here. Sorry, these are really, really small, but what you're seeing here, this is Whatcom here. Okay, this is Whatcom County here. So if you just have a burning desire to be that agent that's doing, you know, $1 million and up, I just want you to be aware that, see this little, where I'm circling here, I know it's really hard to see. This is what you're battling for, and you're probably battling a lot of agents. You know, when I look at it though, guys, you know, there's a huge, this sort of 600 to 1.2 is a great area to kind of start working into, because the way appreciation's going, that group of houses and people that are 600 to 1.2 now, by the time your career is 5 or 10 years mature down the road, it's going to be a lot higher. Remember, I started at 5 to 1.5 back in 2011. Now my price band has just naturally gone up to 750 to 1.75, and really up to 2 million pretty easily. It's the same houses. You tracking with me? Just because of appreciation. So I just want you guys to be aware of and think about it. This is Thurston County. I mean, I just don't know how smart it would be. Look at it up here. I mean, there's just hardly any product there. Now there's some interest to me here, and there's some interest here. This is the top 10% of what's selling to me in Thurston County, right? Okay. Sorry, I'll get off that high horse, but it's really important that you are very purposeful. There's a gal named Lori Mormore. Has anyone here taken the class? What is it called? The luxury class, the Institute of Luxury Home Marketing. Can't remember. She used to say, if you don't find your market will find you. So if you're like me and a lot of us, you know, we just kind of end up getting our business by default, right? We just kind of get our business by default. So what I'm telling you to do is not do that. I'm telling you to get super, super purposeful. Now that we've done our market analysis, now we're going to move into the become section of it. And we're going to talk about what I purposely did to become that person that doubled. I became the 750, well, it was about 700. I went from about 350 to 700. And I had to become a $700,000 average price point agent. And that's what I'm going to teach you guys right now. And again, just feel free to jump in. A couple of you have talked about, Teresa and Eric asked me lead gen questions. That's number 3. That's our C, right? We're on B for become, and then when we get to C, we'll talk about that. So the first thing we did was we analyzed our price bands, and we analyzed sort of what target market we want to go after and what price point we want to go after. Now what we have to do is we have to become that person, right? So if any of you are from the military, you know the term subject matter expert. So I always call this SMEEP 3, but this is subject matter expert. So you need to become the SMEEP in, well, it's really the SME, in the place, people, and product that you have targeted in the analysis section, right? So I started looking at the different areas, and admittedly, at first I started choosing outerlying areas to become the expert in. But during that time, I was also really getting well versed in my core areas that I ultimately wanted to tackle. So while I was getting well versed in the outerlying areas, because I just knew it would be a little easier for me to get listings that way, I was also becoming the expert in the place, people, and product here in Bellevue and Kirkland in my case, which were like the core areas, right? To a certain degree, Seattle, but I really focused a little bit more on Bellevue and Kirkland for you local people. So the first thing is the place. And here's the best example I have about place. I live in Kirkland, Washington, and we have this street called Market Street. We have a neighborhood called West of Market, and we have a neighborhood called East of Market. So as you can probably guess, West of Market are all the houses that are west of Market Street, and East of Market are all the houses that are east of Market Street. So my story is that I sold a client a home west of Market. West of Market is a highly, highly desirable neighborhood. And so is East of Market. So any of you watching from East of Market, my parents live East of Market. I love East of Market, but West of Market is kind of the premier neighborhood in Kirkland. And you could literally have two houses identical. One of them's on the west side, one of them's on the east side, and the West of Market house will just be worth more. It's the way it is, right? Market Street was a line of demarcation. It just was. But if you weren't from the area and you didn't know that, you wouldn't know that. So I sold some clients a house and they were relocating. And I was going to get the listing, but at the time it was a relo thing. So they had to get two other opinions. Have you ever done that with relo? They have to get two pricing opinions. And so they just the relo company assigned them two agents. And the other two agents were not, they didn't understand Kirkland at all. And they came at really, really low prices. It was crazy low. And then when I submitted the price, the relo company challenged me because the other two were really low. They did not allow us to list the house at the price I thought we should list it at. And this was a little bit before multiple offers were the thing. They were starting to happen. So I had to set up the whole listing to get multiple offers because we were forced to underprice the house because people didn't understand what Market Street meant. It worked out well for me. I mean, I was thrilled actually to have, to get multiple offers, and it sold for what it should have sold at. But I think it was unfortunate for the sellers. And I also think it's a good example of not knowing your area. Luckily for me, I mean, they were going to hire me anyway, but those two agents would not have gotten that listing. You have to understand all the lines of demarcation. What are the neighborhood, where are you going to draw a line in all the neighborhoods, right? And that just takes some time. That just takes some time to know. You need to get hyper local in your knowledge. You need to know the schools, right? You cannot show up to someone's house and start talking about Medina Elementary only to have them say, we're actually Clyde Hill Elementary. Very different. Right? And you just have to know the schools that are attached and to know enough about their reputation and what the desirable ones are and what the issues at hand are for each schools. You have to know the restaurants and landmarks and parks. You don't want to be the one that if they say I'm around the corner from the antique market, what antique market? It just shows you don't know the area, right? So you have to really, in a hyper local way, start getting to know these areas really, really well. The other thing I want to just kind of remind you, I don't want you to forget, is you have to get to know the real estate agents. And that gets overlooked a lot. And we're going to talk about it, in a second, but you have got to preview homes. You have got to start budgeting previewing in your homes weekly. It's just mandatory. If you're going to get into luxury, your new world is previewing homes. Whether you have never previewed a home before or not, because a lot of you are probably watching me going, well, why would I preview a home? If I don't have a buyer with me, I'm not going to go see a home. This isn't the right specialty for you. You have got to go preview homes, and it's got to be regular. But I want you to pay attention to all of these things I'm talking about while you're previewing. In fact, if I were you, I would take a screenshot of this slide, and I would use this as a checklist every time you guys preview. So one of the ways that you get to know real estate agents is during broker tours. So if you have broker opens or caravans in your area still, please do me a favor and introduce yourself and get to know the listing agents that are there. These are the people that you're going to be in friendly competition with. You're also going to be in collaboration with. These are the guys that you're going to be doing deals with, that you're going to be working with, and we're all in the same sandbox and we want to play nicely. Your life will be better if you get to know the real estate agents that you're going to be selling alongside with, right? The other thing, guys, is if they already have the listing, they're probably really good and they probably know a lot of things they can teach you. So I just would go in, I would introduce myself to the agent, and I would ask questions like, what kind of wood is this? I still to this day, for some reason, I'm not good with woods. I don't know why. Like I can't naturally look at something and say that's well, I guess I can do walnut or fir, but I don't know what it is. I'm just not great with woods. So I always asked about woods, or I'd say, oh, I've never seen this before. I've never seen this brand. Or I remember, do you guys remember when we went from beige to gray? Remember that when the color scheme started to change? I just remember kind of having conversations like, this is the third house I've seen this month that has gray instead of beige. What's that about? And I started, learning then that, someone said that they're on the computer and they can't copy. Don't worry, I'll share the slide deck. It's fine. Anyway, that was when I started learning. I remember one of the listing agents said, yeah, the gray's coming in as the new neutral. It's no longer going to be, beige. And so what was cool is I remember distinctly going on a listing presentation after that, and I kind of parroted that. And it just made me sound really cool. It made me sound like I totally knew what I was talking about. So I started really getting in the habit of talking and engaging the agents when I could and learning, what I could from them. One thing that I did want to point out on this, a lot of the times people come to me and they say, should I go on the luxury magazines, or, should I spend a whole bunch of money marketing? Think about this. If you've chosen your price band in some areas that fit that really well, one of the best things you can do is sponsor little leagues, sponsor the auctions at the schools, sponsor, the PTSAs at the schools. The very little hyper local sponsorships, I think, can possibly get you more mileage than the $5,000 ad that you're potentially going to spend, in a luxury magazine. Because this is at the end of the day, it's all really hyper local and it's super purposeful and super targeted. So the last one here that I just, want to emphasize is preview homes weekly. So it's hard to do. I recommend if you do have broker opens or caravans that you religiously budget that out. So good example is here in our area, Kirkland is Wednesdays 11 to 2, and then area 520 Bellevue is Thursdays 11 to 2. Those are our, caravans. And forever, I just kind of, Wednesdays and Thursdays were tour. I ran into friends. I got to know agents. It was really fun. Sometimes we went on them together. There's nothing more enjoyable on a spring or summer day, guys, than going to a $10 or $15 million brokers open with catered. It's really like a perk of the job. I remember there were times where I'm like, this doesn't suck. It was pretty awesome. And that was a little bit before social media. Now there's so much you can do with that with social media too that we'll talk about in a bit. So I want you to become the subject matter expert in all of the places that you need to be a subject matter expert with, from or on, I should say, in the areas that you're targeting. You have got to build in previewing. I don't know what's going to happen with previewing homes with COVID. I just don't know what's going to happen. What I do know is that some kind of a new normal is going to come back, and we're going to figure out a way that we can preview homes again, because we have to. Here's the thing with luxury that you need to know. They're harder to gain access to. So it's really important that if you do have brokers opens or you do have caravans, it's really important you try to go, because it's hard to make appointments to get into a high-end home. And what's really important is I want you guys ready for that at bat. Because if you've been previewing and getting to know the areas, and you get that opportunity to go meet with that $5 million listing presentation, if you've been previewing homes for 6 months, you guys, every single product on the market like an expert. Doesn't matter how many you've sold, you probably know more than 80% of the other agents. But if you haven't, you're going to walk in there and they're going to feel it. They're going to know the market more than you because they've been in all their friends' houses, right? So it's really important that if you preview regularly. How far back do we use comps when we're doing CMAs? How far back do you guys go? Put it in chat. I guarantee you don't go much farther than 6 months. Some might go a year, maybe, but it's 3 to 6 months, right? You know what? You can dominate a market in 3 to 6 months. You can literally, if you do nothing but preview regularly in 6 months, you probably know every single comp that you need to know. And your confidence is going to go through the roof, and you're going to be able to say, well, that other agent might have said this price, but I want to share with you this pink house that they used as a comp. Actually, yours is better. They showed some really artful pictures on the view, but the view was not straight on like yours. And the other thing about that house that wasn't available, available was that the floors were scratched everywhere or whatever. The point is, when you start talking like that, you're an expert. All right, let's keep going. People. Okay, you have to know your high net worth people. So every area is different. And the example that I give a lot is I compare Seattle to Las Vegas. Is anyone here from Vegas? I can't remember if we have anyone here. Here's the thing with Seattle. Our high net worth people are one of two. They are either tech, or they're like venture capital entrepreneur, like they've created a business, or they've helped fund a business, or they're tech. For the most part, what I can share with you is I know almost every single disc profile. Oh, hi, Leica. Oh, you want me to go to present? Like that? Hold on. I'm getting asked to change something. Hold on. Give me a moment. Let me go to present view. I can't do it. So Leica is saying that my notes are distracting. Are they distracting you, Leica? Oh, you can see it? Sorry, I'm having tech difficulties today. I'm like lost because Hattie's not here today. Can you see that? Wait. Okay, it's not working for me though, on my end. So right now you're not seeing, yeah, I know, because it's not working on my end when I do it. Okay, I'll do it. I hate it, but I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay. So you have to know who your high net worth people are, all right? So here's one of the things that I find interesting that you guys may not know. The DISC, oh, I should have gone back. So the DISC is, it's DISC. D stands for direct, driven, domineering personality. And then I stands for the people person. So a high I personality is a highly social person. It's someone that gets really fed from people. The S is kind of steady, solid team player. They're the glue of the family. So an S is the ones that has all the family pictures, that does the memories in the family. They're just really steady, and they're typically risk averse. They don't love high risk things. C personalities are analytical, detail oriented, very, engineers, a lot of coders would be a C, right? So the majority of real estate agents, it's no surprise, are IDs or DIs, right? A lot of us here on the call, it attracts DIs and IDs. What's fascinating is almost 70% of the population is an S. And when I learned this, I realized that, that assertiveness and that dominance that really works well for us in real estate can actually alienate a lot of the population. Even the I. So we always have 2 letters when we work with the DISC, and there's a lot of really great DISC training, and I highly recommend it. This isn't a DISC class, but you're going to be 2 letters. So a lot of S's are SIs, right, or SCs. One of the things that I started learning is that the Seattle high net worth people, they are DCs. Almost every single high level tech executive, entrepreneur, venture capitalist that I was dealing with that was a decision maker was a DC. And what I use as contrast is you take a market like Vegas. Now Vegas, the high net worth people are what? They're in they're entertainment. They're in the entertainment, they're in hotels, right? It's hospitality or entertainment. That is not a DC, excuse me, that's not a DC at all. That's like an I, it's like an IS. They're probably IS personalities. So what does that mean for you? Oh, it means a lot for you. It means that your scripts, your marketing, your dialogue, really everything you do is going to be different. What I would do for a DC versus what I would do for an IS is really, really different. You have to learn who your Hinwees are. Hinwees, high net worth individuals. So this is about them, not you, right? You have to learn everything you can about them so that you make them feel comfortable. So sorry, I'm taking you out of this a little bit, and then I'll come back to it because I can't read the chat with that. Don't move. Hey, I will come back to that, I promise you. Here's what I want to share with you guys really quickly though. What I want to share with you is everything we did on the VIA group was for a DC. And one of the things I did, I used to have a slide, I don't have it anymore. One of the things I did was I started looking at what Amazon and what Microsoft was doing for their internal communications, okay? So I started looking at I started just Googling images and paying attention when I went to people's houses and previewed. I wasn't snooping, but I would see things on their desk. And I started noticing some commonalities. And one of the commonalities was a whole bunch of white space or a whole bunch of black space in their graphics. I noticed they were all block type. There was no cursive, no script type. And it was, very primary colors at the time. Remember Windows? It was just very primary colors. It was very crisp, sharp graphics. It was kind of word heavy. So when it came time to design my VIA logo, I should have had it up here. I don't have it up here, but I'll find it for you. When it came time to do that, you guys, I actually designed it for them, not me. This was completely designed for them to subconsciously feel super comfortable with my stuff out of the gate. All of my listing material, all of my signs were, I'm so sorry I don't have pictures right now, but a lot of white space with a red logo in the middle. It's just a red circle logo. Very clean, very crisp. Some of my luxury stuff was the opposite. It was just black, but then it would have like a red thing or a white thing in the middle of it. So I just started copying what they had. And one of the things I noticed, you guys, is I would go to all these luxury conventions and like every single luxury logo had a whole bunch of cursive script type. And I think that would really work well in like Vegas. I actually think like Los Angeles, Vegas, I think there's a lot of markets that is spot on, but it wasn't spot on here. It was not in line and in alignment with who our high net worth individuals were. It just wasn't. I just knew who they were and it wasn't that. So it was funny how like I started noticing that anytime someone thought of luxury, there was a period in time where they automatically thought about cursive writing. I don't know why, but you remember back in the day when everyone had the big scrolly script like luxury logos? And now we don't see it as much, but I was one of the first ones to buck that trend because it just wasn't what my high net worth individuals were used to seeing. It wasn't what they were comfortable seeing. So you have to become a subject matter expert in the people, not just the place, not just in the neighborhoods, but in the actual people. Okay, I'm going to make Leica happy. I'm going to go to present mode. There we go, everybody. See, there you go. All right. The next thing I want you to do is be a subject matter expert in the product itself. Now we're talking about the houses. You cannot preview enough. You have to preview, right? It is really important that you start understanding your styles and your architecture, your products, your high-tech home features, appliances, you name it. It's pronounced Mila, everybody. You just have to know what they're pronounced. You have to recognize what they are. One of the things I want you to get really comfortable with is simply being in these homes. Subconscious body language is speaking really loud. And when you walk into homes that you're not comfortable with, everybody around you feels it. They just feel it. So the best way you can get through that is to preview. Because I remember bringing agents into a really high-end luxury listing presentation that we had. It's like a $5 million house. And I remember team members were like they were gaping, and I remember like going, stop gaping. And I realized I'd failed because, I hadn't encouraged them to go preview enough high-end homes. So the best way for you to get comfortable is to go preview these homes. Remember, we get confidence through our competence. So your confidence is going to come the more that you're in these homes, the more that you go to these listing presentations, the more high-end homes you list. Confidence through competence, really, really important. If you're ever lacking confidence and you have a low self-esteem in any aspect of your real estate career, work really hard to get experience in that one thing, and your confidence will automatically go up. This is why I'm hammering you to preview. If you do nothing else, you guys, your confidence level will shoot up if you preview. It's so important. Again, we talked about this before. Talk to the listing agents, read their literature and marketing, ask them questions about the product that you're previewing, right? Understand what's important in the moment. My example of beige to gray, that was really important in the moment, because when you have clients asking you, I need to paint my house, what color should I paint it? You know, there's a couple ways to answer that. And the way that sounds really cool is what's totally on trend and what's going to, you know, set you into the home of the future and be on par with the newer, remodeled and updated homes in this price range is going to be gray, not beige anymore, right? Or grayish, you know, if they have to transition different fixtures. Anyway, really important to understand trends. I've always gotten, I still do, subscriptions to Architectural Digest and different magazines, because if you just leaf through them while you're eating your cereal on a Saturday morning, you know, if you just leaf through them, you do start feeling trends. Like I started feeling that fuchsia color of the year before anyone announced it. I knew that it was coming because I just started seeing it. You could just start feeling different trends. You know, a lot of us in the Seattle area started noticing everybody stopped building traditional homes. Remember that? Everyone went modern and contemporary. And now we don't really think twice about it, but there was this kind of transition period where some people are still building craftsman, some people were building modern and, you know, and contemporary. And it was just really important to understand that the trend of that moment moving forward was going to be contemporary and modern. So I started, you know, paying attention, and I remember I would have clients that were in a little bit more of a traditional house, and I knew that it wasn't really what the consumer wanted anymore. So when I was counseling them on paint color, I would say things like, well, it's really important that we paint your trim a little darker actually than your base color of your walls, because that's gonna transition this house. We want it to be transitional. It's super traditional. We want to at least make it transitional because everybody's going towards modern and contemporary now. How did I know that? I knew that because I just previewed so many homes, and I was just in so many homes. And then layered on top of that, I was just like looking at all the magazines and, you know, watching YouTube, and you get good at it over time. It's just like anything. Google is your friend. Okay, so that was the A's and the B's, okay? So the A's was analyze your price point and your price band. B was how you become the luxury expert. It does take time, but it doesn't have to take that long. In my mind, that's a 6-month process, at least the beginning part of the process, right? And we become a subject matter expert in place, person, people, and product. Place, person, product, okay? Now, this is where we're going to start answering a lot of your questions on lead gen. And by the way, with this in presentation mode, I can't see the chat window. So I'm going to have to come back to chat afterwards. Sorry. The first thing I want to talk about on this part. So now let's just go back. We've chosen our price band, okay? We've worked really hard to kind of become this agent that we want to be, right? We become a subject matter expert in the areas that we want to target, and the people. We have a sense of the people. We understand the product really well, okay? So now it's time for you to go into C, carry out and execute it, and really just start hitting it. You want to act like the luxury agent that you are. Fake it till you make it, right? Steven Tyler of Aerosmith always said that. Fake it till you make it. He used to pretend he was a rock star. I love that. Confidence through competence. I cannot stress that enough. Really, if there's probably anything in here, your confidence is going to carry you so far in this process. So the more that you go out and you get competence in the different areas that you need to, and that's part of why I taught this class, because you didn't even know what you didn't know. And so I'm telling you, these are the areas you need to get competent in, right? You need to get competent in the actual places. You need to get confident in the people that own these houses that are going to hire you, and you have to get confident in the product itself, right? Okay. Fake it till you make it. This is a mindset game. I told you guys the story. I came to a new brokerage. I just took that as an opportunity. I thought, I'm going to have to blast all my friends and family and tell them that I've moved brokerages. What an opportunity to completely rebrand myself and create a new narrative and create a new story. And by the way, I think that's life. You can make a decision, especially if you look at COVID right now. Don't waste this, guys. This is your time. Make a decision. You've gone through a lot of contemplation and thought right now. Rebrand yourself, redefine yourself, right? Come to Keller Williams. No, I'm kidding. Well, I'm not kidding, but this is a good time though, is what I'm saying. So, okay, first of all, I want to talk about the royal we. So for my Keller Williams family that's on this call, anytime I teach you and train you, and you guys see me teaching and training you a lot, anytime I do that, or Ben does it, or any of your team leaders, or any of the teams in your offices, anytime we come in and teach you and tell you stories, you get to use those stories as your own. That's what I call the royal we. So when I come in and say, I sold Kevin Durant's house, guess what? If, any one of you at Keller Williams could say, well, we sold Kevin Durant's house, right? So use the royal we. If someone says to you, hey, Leica, how many 3 million plus, homes have you sold in Redmond this year? And you could say, well, we've sold, 37. Because you can look up all Keller Williams or all whatever it is you're going to do, and you can answer with the royal we, right? So just remember that. That's a really good script, by the way. Ask permission and advertise other agents' listings and use other agents' stories, just like I told you. So let's talk about advertising other agents' listings. You have to have permission. When you do get permission, I want to share a couple things with you. Number one, your database doesn't really understand how this all works. They don't. They want to pretend they do, and they don't. So your database doesn't really understand when you get on Facebook and you say, hey, I'm hosting an open house today and I'm advertising this listing. What your database is seeing is, hey, that's pretty cool. Jen, you've got a new $3 million listing in Mount Vernon. They don't understand it's not your listing. They just don't, guys. I'm telling you. And if you email that to your database because you got permission to advertise it, they truly think it's your listing. So use that, right? Use that. Get permission from other agents and use their stuff if you can. And if they say no, then work really hard on gaining their trust, right? Offer to do open houses for them. Be an amazing protege for them, frankly. And they'll let you do that because they'll trust you more. By the way, if you go on brokers opens tours and you start introducing yourself to agents and get known in the agent community, agents will let you advertise their listings because they know you and they trust you, right? They know that you're going to represent them well. So there's a lot of reasons to go get to know people when you do that, right? When we talk about acting like the luxury agent we are, your previewing activity, it changes your conversation. So here's what that looks like. There's a couple different ways that shows up. One of them is I'm in a book group, and I've been in the same book group for like 15 years in Kirkland. And the conversation looks different when I go, hey, I just went into that purple house that's on Lake Street on the water. I just went and previewed it today. It's so awesome. And then someone else will say, yeah, that's Sally's house. I heard that they were listing. And I go, yeah, I think I'm going to show it tomorrow. I'm so excited. I automatically have shown them that I understand the product in their neighborhood. Excuse me for a minute. That I understand the product in their neighborhood, and it's just a different conversation. What does that look like on social media? Yes, I get that we're not allowed to take certain pictures of listings and all the stuff you probably have in chat that I can't even see. But there are things we can do on social media. My good friend Nicole here in Kirkland, she lives right around the corner from me. She's a great real estate agent. She just has this fun little social media thing she's done for years, forever. And she likes to take pictures. This is going to sound weird, but she likes to take pictures of light fixtures. And I know that sounds weird, but she goes into all the high-end homes. She religiously previews and tours. And there are some amazing light fixtures out there, you guys, like amazing. And sometimes she'll do it from like restaurants or hotels. It's not always houses. And she just gotten this kind of known, like, she's like, this was a cool one today. And we all kind of like looking at Nicole's light fixtures. I know it sounds weird. I can guarantee you're allowed to take a picture like that at a listing, right? I remember one time I was previewing like a penthouse at Lincoln Tower in downtown Bellevue for all of you guys who are here in the Seattle area. And two eagles were like, they were kind of dancing. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if it was like a mating ritual or something, but they were doing something. And I was like blown away. And so I stood there right at the window and I got video of it and I posted it on Facebook. I was like, oh, I'm previewing, a penthouse in downtown Bellevue, and look what the eagles are doing. Well, there was no markers to have to get permission to post that on social media, right? I know there's a lot of strict rules about what you can and can't post, but there are things that this changes your conversation. If you preview and if you're constantly at high-end houses, opportunities like that will come up for your social media and your conversations. Sorry. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, this is what you all want to know, lead generation. So first of all, you want to go through your database and your sphere of influence. So remember I gave you homework at the beginning? I gave you homework on how to do the analysis. This is your next homework. I want you to go through your database, right, whatever that looks like right now, and I want you to highlight anyone in your database that's going to be of high net worth. If you're an emerging agent, translation, if you're really young, I want you to really pay attention to the parents, your friends' parents, right? Your friends' parents have a wealth of knowledge, and you guys, I'm telling you, they all want to support you. Every single one of them will meet with you, will have lunch with you, will allow you to pick their brain. They really will. So don't forget that, right? Even grandparents maybe, right? So whoever is in your database, right? I want you to identify in there who is a high net worth individual. And those are the ones I want you to start reaching out to. And what I did is I probably met with, I made my decision, I probably met with 10, I don't remember, maybe about 10. And the conversation went something like this. Hey, Lena, this is Via. How are you? Good, good, good. Hey, I am wondering, I'm working on my business, and I kind of wanted to pick your brain and almost do like a one-on-one focus group with you. I value your opinion so much. You have an incredible business. You have a successful career, whatever it is. Would there be any way I could treat you to coffee or lunch, and we could spend, 30 minutes together, and you could let me pick your brain? I just really want to learn from you and try to break into a new business, thing I'm looking at. Not one no. Everybody loved it. I had some fun. By the way, I had lunch with almost everybody, and it was so awesome. And some of them are still my really good clients to this day. And I just started asking them, in your circle, what does that decision look like when you're choosing an agent? How do you guys talk about agents? How could I break into that circle? What does that look like? I started asking a ton of questions. And what I learned, by the way, let me just cut to the chase. It's referral. It was referral. It was one of two things. I should say it's one of two things. It was one, they were a neighborhood expert. So they saw a lot of their signs in the yards, and they trusted that they knew how to sell houses in their neighborhood. But number two, even if it was a neighborhood expert, you guys, it was still a referral. So, I started learning that was how it was going to work. And I guess I kind of knew that instinctually, but I had to confirm that, and it was true. It was definitely a referral. So the first homework I want you guys to do is to identify who in your database and sphere of influence would be a high net worth individual, someone in your target price band that you want to target. Do not forget the parents. If you don't have any, I want to dive in on the reasons for that. So if you're not from the area, and you just moved here, and so or somewhere, and you don't have anybody, that's different. Then we can talk about open houses, which we can talk about in a second. FSBOs and expireds for sure. There's no question I got FSBOs and expireds doing this. If you're from the area, though, that you're practicing real estate in and you don't have any database people, it's, it might take you a little longer. You're going to have to kind of go it cold. And what I want to share with you is don't get discouraged. It's going to probably be referral. There's a certain percentage that you can get, though, FSBO and expireds and all that. But I found that most of the neighborhoods and most of the people I were targeting needed an intro. That's just what I found here. I'd be curious to know what you guys are finding. So that was what I did. In the meanwhile, I got a really great listing. I got the Kevin Durant listing. So that was in 2012. That was in 2012. And what had happened is Katie had built a house in Mercer Island, literally lived in it for like 30 seconds. And then Schultz went and yanked the Sonics away, planted him in Oklahoma City. And the house basically was vacant because Katie loved it so much. So it sat vacant forever. And then finally his advisors were like, Kevin, you got to sell the house. So they hired an agent who had the listing for a long time and it didn't sell. And then I have a contact. We work with a lot of athletes. And so I got a contact and I got the listing. And so I made a decision that I was going to capitalize that listing because my theory was, and it's been the absolute true theory ever since then. It's been 8 years. My theory was people would say, well, if Kevin Durant trusted Via to list his house, then I can too. And that has proven true 8 years later. It's true. It's like a validation. It's like a third-party validation, right? So when you get your first high-end listing, when you get your first high-profile listing, leverage the heck out of it. We got on TMZ. We got in the Seattle Times. We were the front page of the Seattle Times real estate section. I specifically asked if I could use his name, or because I sometimes have to sign NDAs, and he was happy to let me use his name. The market was horrible back then, so it was anything to get him top dollar. Oh my gosh, I emailed it to my clients. I did private events there for my clients. Like I would invite my clients an hour before the open house. I did email. I did mailers. I spent more money leveraging that listing than I ever had, and it was so smart. I think I ended up getting 2 or 3 listings from that one listing, and it just cascaded because they were all high-end listings because, by the way, birds of a feather flock together. So typically a high-end listing will get you another high-end listing, right? Not always, but typically. I leveraged the heck out of it, right? I called past clients that I thought might have a shot at, hey, do you want to buy Kevin Durant's house? I'm listing it. When I called FSBOs, I would kind of circle the area. And when I called FSBOs, I would say, hey, I'm listing a house around the corner from you, Kevin Durant's house. Because I know it sounds like super obnoxious, but I'm telling you, I just leveraged it like crazy, and it really worked. The other thing we did is we leveraged it to get ourselves more known with the sports agents and the financial advisors. And to this day, we're working with 3 Seahawks right now. We work with Mariners and Seahawks super frequently, and we just have a really good network now in the sports agent and in the athletic financial advisor world. But we didn't before. You have to start somewhere, right? So we took that first opportunity and just leveraged the heck out of it. When I would get a lead for that, or really any listing I did since then, I would drop everything for the lead. Okay. So let me just check, because I feel really weird that I can't, read chat. So I'm just gonna, Candace is asking, where do we find a list of what we can and can't post? Candace, what market are you in? What MLS are you in? Not around. Okay. So every MLS is different. Thurston. Okay. So it's NWMLS. Every MLS is different. I can only speak for us here in the NWMLS in Washington. We have to get explicit permission in writing to market someone else's listing. 9 times out of 10, that's a text or an email around here, right? So I just kind of wanted to share that depending on what your MLS rules are, some of you might be able to just advertise listings. And I know that there's some exceptions, like HUD has exceptions, but these aren't HUD houses. All right, let's get to the listing presentation because you guys all want that. Okay, can you, well, I wouldn't know if you can see it because I can't read that. Okay, I'm hoping you can see this in presentation mode, I hope. Okay, so this is the listing appointment. So most of us are used to doing what I would call a one-step listing appointment, which is you show up at the house, you meet with them, and you expect to walk out with a signed listing agreement, right? The higher the price point, the less likely that is to happen. So I call it a two-step. Nowadays with COVID, I don't know what this all means, right? It's all one big virtual blur right now, but it's the same thing. So for the most part, I did a two-step, and here's what that looked like. I would set the actual listing appointment with both decision makers there, if they were a married couple. But what I would do, so once that was set and I had it firm, then I would back out of that. So by the way, let me just clarify. Very important that you close for that listing appointment first. That's the most important one, okay? But what I would try to do, didn't always happen. What I would try to do is add a second step where I would say, okay, perfect. You know, if the say the wife or the husband was calling me, I would say, hey, can you and I do a tour of the house? If say we were meeting on Saturday, can you and I do a tour of the house in the next few days so that I can come prepared and have a price ready for you guys, right? I obviously need to see your house in order to price it. And you do. You have to see these houses in order to price them, guys. This isn't like a cookie cutter subdivision, right? So it's really important to me that you hear me though, set the listing appointment first. Don't set the walkthrough first, set the listing appointment first and then back into it. Because there's plenty of times where I did both appointments essentially in one. And you know, it's not a 5-minute listing presentation. It's just gonna take a little longer. When I'm doing the walkthrough, so we're gonna talk about the first step. This is the walkthrough step. There's a lot of awesome training out there. One of them's called Bold. It's like a signature Keller Williams class we have, and I just absolutely love it. I've done Bold 3 times. I just think it's great. There's some things we can't use, though, that we learn in Bold, and one of them is you have got to go on this walkthrough with your seller. And it's not going to be quick, guys. It's not going to be quick. You really want to spend that time to bond, to understand who they are, how they're going to be making their decision. You also need to show them that you know your stuff a little bit too. So ask probing questions about the house, right? Bond, and you need to show off a little bit. So remember we talked a little bit about previewing, right? So let me give you a couple examples of showing off. Since Katie's house is on my mind, I'll use that as an example. I remember walking through as his representative, and it was way back when the brand new and the Miele built-in espresso machines were coming out. Now they're kind of everywhere, but back then it was pretty novel. It was like 2012. And I mean the built-in appliance espresso machines. So, you know, we're walking through the house and I was like, oh, that's great. You know, you guys have the Miele. And I go, may I? And he said, yeah. And I opened it up and I checked the filter. Now, you know, I mean, he was like, whoa, I didn't even know it could do that. I'm like, oh yeah, you got to check this and this and this. And it was just enough to show off, right? Then we got around to the island and I started looking underneath the island and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just want to see where the kick plate are. I'm assuming there's kick plates around here, right? For the central vac? He's like, I have no idea. And then I'm like, yep. And I kick the kick plate and it just goes, whoosh. It's like a whoosh of vacuum, you know? He's like, whoa, you really know your stuff. I really think it's that kind of thing that got me the listing. And, you know, it's a little bit of showing off, right? It's a little bit of, it's like a comment here and there, like, oh, I love the herringbone tiles, super on trend. Or, you know, oh, I love the coffee, can't talk, the coffee, you know, when they have the whole coffee in the master bedroom, the whole coffee like section console area or whatever, you know, it's super on trend. Or, you know, back when the freestanding bathtubs came out, I would make comments. I want you to make a couple smart comments a little bit so that they know that you know what you're talking about, right? That only comes from previewing. In our market, because I know my high net worth people, guys, we have to do a DC, to use the disc, we have to do a high C pricing and marketing presentation. I literally hate going through pricing with sellers. I don't know why, I just hate it. So oftentimes what I would do after the first step, I would send them, now we use Brivity CMA, but back in the day I used to use another program, and I would send them the comps and they were beautifully presented. So when you send a Brivity CMA, it's really gorgeous, and they get a link, and then there's like a slideshow of all the comps. And I would say, these are the 3 comps we're going to be spending the most time on when we meet tomorrow. Just wanted to give you the opportunity to take a look at them. I cannot recommend doing that enough, because it eliminates time. Because, you know, if they're somewhat of a high C detail oriented person, they have looked through those comps and they're ready for you, good or bad, right? They're ready for you. No pricing. I would never send pricing in advance, but I would send the comps that I was looking at in advance. So anytime I'm doing a listing appointment, we start with the walkthrough, right? And then we sit down at the table, and really the first thing we do is what I call the language of real estate, or lore. For me, that's been, I don't know why I was doing this. For me, that's been trend graphics. I have used, oh, geez, hold on, a little glitch here. I've used trend graphics for 15 years. Trend graphics is a program that takes MLS data. It does not matter what program you use. I know we have InfoSparks. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. What matters to me is that you choose 1 or 2 data points, right? That you choose 1 or 2 market research data points that you're tracking, and that's what you live by. Don't ever try to present too many data points to your client. I really have a rule. If I'm showing a chart or a graph, it's probably not going to be more than 2 data points. So this is a chart I've used for 15 years, and how it would go, as I would say, you know, okay, Eric, what you're seeing in front of you is a 14-month chart. And on this chart are all homes between 2 and 3 million that are on the market that month. So Eric, what you can see here is a green bar. That green bar are houses on the market between 2 and 3 million in Pierce County, right? You can see a red line. That red line are houses between 2 and 3 million that sold on that same month. So what we see here, Eric, is a correlation between houses that are on the market and houses that sold that month. Now, for all of you guys in really hot markets, this is a 2014 chart. You can see how far back I've been teaching this, and it hasn't changed. But obviously, a lot of our charts now, that red line is way higher, right? It's way, way up here because we're in such low inventory environments. You can see how much the market's changed. It's kind of fun to have a 2014 chart here. Well, Eric, you know, what I want to share with you is this is the same chart in a different way. And Eric, this is what we call inventory supply. In our area, 6-month supply is what we consider a neutralized inventory. It's a neutral inventory. It's not really a buyer's market, not really a seller's market. Between 2 and 3 million, it's really not unusual at all to have between an 8 and 12-month supply. That's quite common. So I want to share with you that this chart we're looking at is a stunningly good seller's market. When we're seeing under a 3-month supply for 2 to 3 million in Pierce County, it is a really, really well-poised seller's market for you. And so the context of which we're going to go into our pricing discussion is that we are in a seller's market. And Eric, wouldn't you agree that in order to truly understand the price of your home, we need to understand the market first? Wouldn't you agree? So I always kind of get a buy-in and an understanding, and I always manage their expectations about what the market's doing before we go into pricing. I stop here and I take as long as I need to make sure that we are understanding each other, that we understand our points of view on the market. Because if they think it's like a red hot seller's market and we're showing an 18-month supply, then we have a problem, you know, because we're going to price it a lot differently than they think, right? The other script that I use a lot on this is, you know, especially if this chart's higher, and you guys, it is often higher. Oftentimes our low inventory environments are not in our high net worth houses. So a lot of the times the scripts that I use are, you know, Eric, here's the deal. I know that a lot of the media is reporting like that we're in a super low inventory environment, that we're a really strong seller's market. What I want to share with you is that real estate is hyper-local, and actually in our particular price point, in our particular area, we're actually in a buyer's market. We're not in a seller's market. If we were, priced at 200,000 in North Tacoma, we would be in a red hot seller's market, but we're not. And so it's really important that we walk into this Eric seller understanding what the market is doing for our particular price point and area. Real estate is hyper local. So I'll go into a lot of translation like that. And I want to make sure that we have an understanding of the market. Really, really important. I can't read chat, so I'll just have to get through this, guys, and then I'll take it off of presenter view. And so just type in your questions and I'll go back. So then we go into marketing. Typically with marketing, I've already asked them what's important to them. I've already asked, what their expectations and what's important to them. I try to spend as least amount of time on any part of my listing presentation as I can. I like to spend a lot of time on the walkthrough, and then really I like to go sign paperwork. So anything in between the walkthrough and the paperwork, to me, it is not as fun for me. So when I go into the marketing, I'm probably tailoring a marketing plan to what they want to hear. I get a lot of questions on this. Don't overthink marketing too much. What you want to do on marketing, guys, you want to be sure you have an international element in there. You want to be sure you have a really, really great photographer and videographer and drone guy. You want to make sure that you have really, really good stable. You want to make sure you have a really good stager that you work with, or couple stagers that you work with. Besides that, honestly, it's not that much different. It's really important that you proactively, though, talk about your international. We're lucky at Keller Williams because we're the largest real estate company in the world. And as far as relocations go, we handle more relocations than any company. So it's a little bit, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit easier. We also have a monopoly on Fang.com, the largest Asian real estate website in Asia. So, admittedly, I can lean on that, but use what you have. What's important is that you're tackling international up front, especially if you're a coastal market. That's going to be really important. Over 50% of your home buyer pool, over 2.5 million, is going to have another home. So a lot of people, like Napa is a great example. Our Napa people on here, right? A lot of people are going to have a home in Napa and somewhere else, right? San Francisco or LA or wherever, right? So you have to be able to discuss not just internationally, you also have to be able to discuss non-local, national. Right? National marketing, what that looks like. I just know our feeder markets in Seattle. So our feeder markets in Seattle, you guys already know, are Portland, Spokane, Bay Area, to a certain extent, Boise. So, we just have certain markets that really feed strongly into Seattle more than others. And there's a bunch of other markets, but those are our strong ones. So I go into those proactively up front, talk a lot about the internet, talk a lot about, drone footage, whatever. If you have any questions, I'll come back to your questions. If you have any specific questions, I guarantee you're overthinking your marketing. Most of my questions come from agents that are freaked out about the marketing plan when they're going on a listing presentation. And I think you should be more freaked out on the houses you haven't previewed. That's what I think. But anyway, enough. There we go. Okay, objection handlers. So I have a whole bunch of objection handlers. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to try to get through as many of these as I can. So, okay. Commission reduction. So this is my favorite commission handler. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to take it out of presentation mode because I don't think you need to slide as much on this. And I want to be sure that I can relate to you on this. Okay, so let's talk about commission. I have so many good stories. So one of the things, can you see my body language? Can you see how excited I got? I'm like, scripts, commission handlers, yay! So we have 7 minutes to go over this. Here's what I know, guys. What I know is that I like to tell a story. I think stories hit the human brain way better than a cheesy, scripty, I'm going to feel bad saying this because I got my start coaching with Mike Ferry, but I'm going to say it like a Mike Ferry script. Okay. So, and I'll respect there, but I just think stories are better. So I have a couple ways that I handle commission. One of them is You know, Hattie, if Hattie says to me, you know, Via, like, I mean, you know, $90,000 plus $90,000, $180,000 in commission, that's a lot of commission. I mean, do you really think that you deserve that? Do you really think that, you know, people don't really say that, but that's a lot of commission. And I'm looking at my bottom line and I'm not going to make that much from this house, and, you know, on and on and on. My favorite one, the one I used for years that I use the most often is, real estate, you know, is an expensive asset to sell. So let's move on to the paperwork. I just sort of acknowledge it. I don't fight them on it. I mean, here's the thing, you guys, they have other assets. They have stocks, they have bonds, they have real estate. And real estate is, you know, if you're in Washington State, it's depending on between 8 and 9.5% to sell. It's just a fact. I view it as a fact, right? So, you know, I just kind of look at them and just say, yeah, real estate's an expensive asset to sell. Ready to go? You know, here's the other thing. I also really focus on their net, and I've always been like that. So typically once I go through price, I have ready in my folder, and I always have it printed out, by the way. I always have a net proceeds on the low, mid, and high range, right? And so I'm always really clear from really the beginning of the conversation to now what their expectation is of net. And I always want to talk in terms of net. And what I mean by net is, well, I want to clear $1 million. Okay, great. To me, anything over $1 million is ancillary. It doesn't matter then, right? If they want to clear $1 million and I feel like we can get them to their goal, that's what I'm focused on, and that's how I talk. So I'll be like, don't you worry. I understand that it's about a 9% cost of sale. You're going to definitely clear your $1 million. In fact, if I have my way, you're going to clear 1.1. I just take it right back down to their goals and right back down to what I know. I should have probably told you that earlier, in the class. I really do that. So I'm really working hard when I'm doing the walkthrough and when I'm talking to them initially about what their financial goals are for the sale, right? Sometimes they don't have any. And those are frankly the ones that don't push back a lot, right? So I just want to know what their financial goals are for the sale. Okay. One of the things I want to talk to you guys about is this. If you've never sold a house at their price or in their neighborhood, please hear me right now. Please consider partnering with an agent who can help you get this listing. Please consider partnering with an agent in your office who has a good luxury track record and you can work with. 50% of something is way better than 100% of nothing. And here's what you do. You approach the agent. I've done this forever for agents in my office and for other Keller Williams offices forever. And they say, Via, will you co-list with me? And I say, yes. And then what I say to them is, but I want you to put this in your name. I want the sign to be in your name. And I want you to be the agent of record because I want you to leverage this listing to get yourself more luxury listings, right? So work with a senior agent who will honor that and kind of tuck you under their wing and mentor you, right? You know, what agents used to say to me a lot is, we just want to see how you do it. Great. It's an open door. It's an open book. Happy to co-list this $5 million house with you. I'll show you everything we do. One of the things that I do when I co-list with a junior agent is I insist on running the marketing. I just do. I have the vendors, I have the platform for it. But what I do is I let them come alongside and see how we do it and learn from it, right? So please consider that if you co-list with a senior agent, your database and your sphere, even the neighborhood may not have to know. Admittedly, to get the listing, you may need to put that other agent's name on the sign because if they sell a lot of homes in that neighborhood, the seller might want that, but you can at least put your name on the sign too. And trust me when I say you can still leverage that listing, right? It's really, I can't stress that enough. 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. The big commission for just one sale, let me give you a couple stories in the 3 minutes we have left. One of them is that when I started in real estate and we started making a pretty healthy income, we were using TurboTax that you do on, I think that's what it's called. Is that the program at home? TurboTax. And 1 year we owed, it was like $14,000 in taxes. And I said to my husband, I think it's time we hire an accountant. He's like, well, I think accountants are expensive. And I was like, yeah, I know. I think they're expensive, but I think it's time. So he had done his taxes, the taxes on TurboTax we owed. It was like $14,500. So we hired a Scott, our accountant, and it was $2,000. And I just remember that for some reason. It was $2,000. But when Scott came back, he brought our taxes down to, it was like $2,500. So $2,500 plus $2,000, it was like $4,500 or $5,000, right? So I looked at my husband when all was said and done, and I go, I think we just paid someone $2,000 to save us $10,000. Is that what just happened? And he said, yeah. So, Eric, Mr. Seller, this is what I want to share with you. A really good agent should actually make you more money, not cost you money. I am really good. You want me to negotiate this house. You want me to market this house. Trust me when I tell you, the 3 points you're paying me are nothing to what we're going to get you in return. So I want you guys to have stories like that where you show, if you don't believe internally that your commission is actually going to make them more money, then it won't come out. Confidence through competence, right? Really, really important. I love my accountant story. I use it all the time. The second story I have really quick, and this is really, this is just a great story, is, Mr. Seller, this is what I know. What I know is a lot of agents try to take the easy way. And especially when we have multiple offers, they get 7 offers in and they negotiate the offers, and that's what they do. I want to share with you a story about how I go the extra mile. We had a client and we listed their house, and we listed it at $690. And we got 6 offers in, and all of the offers came in up to $725 except for one. One offer came in at $755. The challenge was it was what we call an escalation clause, and we had to have another offer for it to beat. So it said, we're going to beat the highest offer up to $755, and we're going to beat it by $2,500. Problem is, I only had an offer that went up to $725. So most agents would have had their clients come in and say, congratulations, we got 6 offers and we sold your house at $727.5, right? And that's a great win. So what happened to me is I was not satisfied. So I pulled it off the MLS that the offer review deadline had passed. I took it off. And I got a call, true story, as my clients were like pulling into the driveway. I could see them because I was standing in the lobby. It was after hours. And I got a call, and it was an agent, and he said, I'm in front of your house. We just showed it. They love it. They want to make an offer. But I think he saw that there was a deadline. And I said, well, here's the deal. I've got 6 offers in my hand. My clients are pulling in. It doesn't make sense. I'm not going to wait for you unless I know that the offer is going to be $750 or higher. Puts me on hold. He comes back. If we write you an offer for $750, will you wait for us? I said, you bet. So my clients walked through the door with their 2 kids. I greeted him and I said, I want to tell you this is a great night for you. Congratulations. And they said, thank you. And I said, I also want to invite you to turn around and go out to dinner for an hour and come back. And they go, what? I go, well, if it's okay with you, I'd like to make you more money. Which they said yes. They go, what do you mean? I said, I really, really, really want to work this angle and try to get you more money for your home. And I think I need about an hour. Would it be okay if you guys went, gave them some restaurants around the corner? And they went. And they came back, and I said, congratulations, that was a $25,000 dinner. They go, what? I go, yeah, I got this offer at $750, and we can beat it by $2,500, and boom, we sold their house at $752.5. I tell people that story all the time as an example of the extra mile that I'll go, right? So it's really important that you start building up stories. You can steal my stories. I don't care. Steal those. That's great. But you build up stories in your repertoire to tell your clients about what it really means behind the curtain to go the extra mile. Lastly, and I'm so sorry we're a couple minutes late, don't be defensive. Whenever you get an objection, just acknowledge it like, yeah, real estate's an expensive asset to sell, isn't it? Yeah. So you want to move forward? I'm acknowledging it. I'm not trying to fight them on an objection, right? I'm just trying to move forward. And then lastly, use data and evidence, right? And I kind of gave you a couple of examples of that. So I'm sorry that I went a couple minutes late. I feel like I've been just talking nonstop for 90 minutes. Ugh. If you have any questions, I am happy to stick around and answer any questions on chat. Otherwise, I'm also happy to share these slides. I've never shared them before, but I think I just don't teach this class a lot anymore, so I'm happy to share them with you guys. Somehow let me know. And hopefully you learned something. I hope you did. I feel like I've just been talking so much. I do not like being the only one on camera. I hate it, actually. So hopefully that helped you guys, and let me know. I'm super accessible. via@benkinney.com is my email. Feel free to, I'll put it in here. Feel free to reach out to me, whatever. Thanks, guys.